Happy August 1 warning to all those who observe. Hi, I'm Warren Hayes, and this is the AEW Dynamite review. Has absolutely nothing to do with August 1 warning, guys. It is August 1st, an auspicious day in TNA wrestling history, nonetheless. And this has nothing to do with TNA. This is the AEW Dynamite review. Why am I even bringing this up? Well, look, I know why I'm bringing this up. Because August 1st, that's the reason right there. Hope everyone is having a good week so far. Listen, hey, by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes, consider giving a like and subscribe to the channel as well. There's a lot of stuff happening on the channel these days on top of the podcast, on top of this weekly review. There's also, I've got a bunch of G1 Climax 34 recap and reviews. I'm doing daily coverage. We've hit the halfway point. So if you want to dive into that, if you want to catch up, all my videos are right there available for you. So you want, and if you don't want to miss one, well, subscribing would be a great thing to do as well. Subscribing is good. It also helps grow the channel and all that stuff. So, you know, but you know, I don't want to harp too much on my own things. Too much. I do want to get into this this edition of AEW Dynamite that happened on July 31st, 2024 from the Bon Secours. Bon Secours? This is a French word, so I feel like I have to pronounce Bon Secours, right? But no, it's Bon Secours, I guess. How do you Yanks, or I mean, you're not Yanks at this point if you're all the way down south. This is so hard. Doing this stuff is harder than it looks. Anyway, look, the Bon Secours Wellness Arena, I guess, in Greenville, South Carolina. Today, I record this on Thursday. This is the day after, of course. I like to sleep on things and not come off as a raving lunatic. At least when I have when I have some sleep packed in, then I feel less like a raving lunatic. I mean, I record hours upon hours upon hours of pro wrestling commentary and analysis, and I think that's raving lunatic behavior. I do believe. So today is so there we go. But what do we do? Tickets. 2,681 tickets distributed for the event. I believe this is AEW's first time running the venue. No, this is not good. it's not a, we're a far cry from the big big blood and guts from last week. Look, we're back down to our usual spots. I think it will also be interesting to see how much the Olympics are going to affect the ratings. But, like I often say, I don't talk ratings much here. I feel like I'm much more into attendance figures that I feel is interesting. But, I do stay abreast of the ratings and how things are going, because that is an important key performance indicator. But I feel like there are people out there, who do a much better job piecing it all together and giving you proper analysis than me here going, that was really good compared to last week. There's some, Brandon Thurston over at WrestleNomics, of course, Joe Lanza over at Voices of Wrestling, and then Dave Meltzer, they all break the ratings down, give historical perspective and so on and so forth. So, nonetheless, I'm just pointing that out, that I'm interested in seeing how it's going to perform with the Olympics, with the Olympics happening right now. I'm surprised still at how many people are into the Olympics. I feel like it's something that has lost tremendous prestige over my 50 years on planet Earth. When I was younger, I feel like it was a much bigger deal. You'd stop doing things at work and at school to watch things happening, to watch events, to see your country representatives doing stuff, especially when they were in gold medal positions, right? And I don't think people do that anymore. I don't think it's that big a deal. And I think it has a lot to do with, the history of corruption and the money involved, and the fact that all these amateur athletes are, there's a lot of stuff being built off the back of amateur athletes is what I'm going to leave it at. As maybe you can infer by this that I'm not a big fan of the Olympics. I'm really not. But it's still pretty much a significant mover, at least among sports aficionados. And I'm be curious to see later on Thursday, when how it's going to impact Dynamite, because it had a impact. Excuse me. Now, see, I said impact. Now I started talking about TNA. See, I got TNA on the brain. You want to watch my Slammiversary review? It's right here on the channel on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. What was the point I was going to make? Where was I going with this? Oh, yeah, the impact of the of the Olympics, right? Because we saw that it did have an impact on NXT, or at least NXT also, maybe, yes, but did it have that big an impact? Was it just that because it also NXT this week was aired on Sci-Fi, right? Well, and that was because of the Olympics, as far as I understand. But did it impact viewership? People who preferred to watch the Olympics. I don't know. And as the event moves on, if there are athletes from the United States who start, becoming a story, well, people are probably going to gravitate a lot more towards that as opposed to just like sitting around and waiting for wrestling to start. You know what I mean? Anyway, big digression there. I think we should just get on with the review, which begins with a cold open again this week. MJF coming out again this week to kick things off. It continues being two-faced about his love for the United States and being the American champion, and calls Will Ospreay a redcoat terrorist. Nothing special, nothing out of the ordinary with MJF where I'm like, do we need to be starting with this? But Ospreay runs in, he's looking for a fight, rushes the ring, takes umbrage. Of course, MJF, hits the bricks, right? He takes umbrage with what Max said last week about his deceased grandmother. He berates Max, who disrespects a title that was a workhorse belt. And then he runs down the lineage of everyone who's held the title so far: Pac, Orange Cassidy, Moxley, Phoenix, Rod Strong, and him. So, the fine little retort. It was okay stuff, nothing mind blowing. Solid promos from two solid promo guys. Super solid promo guys. And then, Lance Archer arrives and we get the match. Will Ospreay, who actually defeated Lance Archer in this match. I thought it was a solid opener, and Archer goes right for Ospreay with a choke slam right at the bell. Ospreay goes for a Sasuke special, but Archer catches him and then slams him on the floor. There's this great, it's just little spots like this that I really enjoy. Will Ospreay does a missile drop kick just as Lance Archer is getting into the ring. Like, as he's entering the ring, Will Ospreay is already up at the top rope and flying off. There's a lot of people who would just wait, until the other guy is back in the ring and standing up or whatever, or would wait till the guy is climbing on top of the apron to start climbing the top rope, which then creates a delay between, the guy coming in and the execution of the move. Whereas here, Ospreay is already climbing the ropes and he's not waiting at the top. Like, his timing is so perfect. And it's these little things that make him so great too. It's little stuff like this where, you know, he's not overdoing it. It's just like it's fantastic stuff. And he had a great opponent here in Archer, who once again is booked like a monster. Of course, he gets a heat segment. He being Archer here. Ospreay fights back with a hook kick. Lands goes for a Nos cutter, but Archer interrupts it and slams him down with a spine buster. Spanish fly by Will Ospreay, then an avalanche Spanish fly. You know, don't let this be lost on you how impressive it is to pull this kind of move on a guy the size of Lance Archer. And you know, a Spanish fly is a move both guys do together, right? It's it's not just Will Ospreay dragging a guy, right? You know this, right? So Archer being able to do this kind of stuff is also tremendous. Look, let's finish up this match first. He being Archer counters the hidden blade with a lariat. He kicks out of another hidden blade, but Will Ospreay then lands another one, and that's how you fell a giant. I gave this match 3 3/4 stars. I thought it was really good. Will Ospreay and Lance Archer have always had good chemistry together. Like, they have always had good chemistry together. This was tremendous. Is it up there with some of the best matches they've had? I think so. I think so. They've had better, but this one here, I think I think it's absolutely up there. It was tremendous stuff. And here's the thing is that, you know, Archer, like, every time that Tony uses him, which is seldom, he always booked like a monster, right? You know, as it says in the name. But then there's never anything that happens with him, right? So, yeah, he's kind of like at this point where, like, he's kind of at this point that is very Big Show-esque. You know, back in the day when Big Show was, you know, losing, you know, he was a big guy and everyone pushed him as a monster, but he would always lose his matches, and, you know, he'd be flipping from babyface to heel on a dime, all that stuff. So no one took him seriously. And this is kind of the thing. This is kind of the problem with Lance Archer, is that, yeah, he had a couple of warm-up matches this week on AEW television, you know, to set the match up, but I feel you'd kind of want Lance Archer to go through one of the, maybe not one of the tippy top guys, but one of the top heavy guys to make him really feel like he's a threat. Because when we all saw Lance Archer versus Will Ospreay, I think we all figured the finish was the finish was clear. There was no way Will Ospreay was losing this. And it's just interesting that, you know, in the way he's booked, the way he's presented, he nonetheless does not come off as a threat. So, you know, he's very much in a Big Show phase at this point, where he's like, I'm a big guy and the booker pushes me as this unstoppable force, but there's nothing. But then again, I understand, like, what are you going to do with Lance Archer at this stage in his career, right? How old is Lance Archer? Just to make sure. Look, I mean, the guy is 47, you know? Like, you don't suddenly strap a rocket to 47-year-old Lance Archer. So I also understand that conundrum, you know? Which is why I'm not a booker and I don't make these decisions. So I also understand why you do that, right? Why you wouldn't be focusing so much on Archer at that point. But look, nonetheless, solid opening stuff. I really like this. Then after the match, MJF runs in to attack Will. He's putting on the Dynamite Diamond ring to, you know, knock his teeth out. But Kyle Fletcher runs in to make the save. Don Callis isn't far behind, doesn't seem, who is not entirely in approval of the situation. But, Fletcher grabs a mic and he tells Callis, he says, I know you said no more getting involved since Ospreay left the Don Callis family, but Will is his best friend and he's my family. He's my brother. And, he's lying in a heap. Not exactly a heap, but I get the intention. Because of a narcissistic, self-centered asshole. And he's not going to sit back and let him, get beat up. So, yeah, nice little tie-in to the story here. And I got to tell you, I really liked Kyle here. I thought Kyle was fired up. I thought it was a surprisingly good promo, because when's the last time you really heard Kyle Fletcher go off on a promo? I thought this was extremely solid. I thought this was really good. And maybe we'll go through the content like very quickly. Basically, he puts over the fact that Max doesn't give a damn about America. That when he was a wee Australian, his dream was to move to the United States because this is where the best wrestle. That's AEW though. And he said since then, this country has given him his dream girl, his dream car, his dream life, and he'll be forever grateful to that. And, he can't stand that MJF is full of bull crap. He probably thought he wanted to say something else, but he corrected himself. He probably doesn't have the sway backstage to justify a fine from WBD for using another word. He probably, if it's MJF saying shit on TV, that's one thing. Kyle will probably get an earful when he goes, he doesn't want to doghouse himself too much. He tells, so basically this agitates Max, who does the bit where it's like, oh, you want to fight me now? You want to fight me now? He starts taking off his jacket and all the nonsense. And of course he relents. That's his thing. And he says, we're going to have a match on my time, and I'm going to kangaroo kick your goddamn face off. And I'm going to make sure that you suffer the same outcome as Daniel Garcia. And when I break your bones, when I break your neck, when I break your back, I don't remember what it was, Will Ospreay will only have himself to blame. So that was good. I thought the opener was very, it was solid, but nothing of value was gleaned. It's just like we're going through the motions here. We're hyping a match. And then we get the match, but the post-match I thought was tremendous, and was led in by Kyle, and then had this great aggressive, violent slant that was suddenly added to it by MJF. It's not fun and games anymore. It's not the ha-has anymore. No. I'm going to do the same thing that Dan Garcia did. Look, let me start by talking. I want to circle back to the Daniel Garcia thing, and I'm even taking a note here to make sure I don't forget. But because I want to talk about Kyle Fletcher and his great promo. I don't remember ever hearing, like I said just not that long ago, a few minutes ago, I don't remember Kyle Fletcher ever cutting a that good of a promo, or even a good promo, like a solid one. But here he was given the opportunity to flex, and he absolutely took the opportunity and he ran away with it. I thought he scored a touchdown. In this circumstance here, I thought he was tremendous in this promo here. And we keep talking about on this review show how Kyle Fletcher has all the tools to be great in pro wrestling, to be a top guy. He's got the size, he's got the look, and he's got the ability. And I think Tony Khan sees this. I think this is why he's not relegating him to backstage while waiting for his tag partner to heal up, and then they can reform. You know what they often do, right? I think Tony sees the potential in the kid and wants to give him some TV time, and he wants him to grow into this role, which is why I think he feels confident in the CMLL stuff on top of that. Like there's a lot of signs here that Tony really believes in the kid and wants to give him the opportunities, and giving him the microphone so he can cut the promo and get everyone fired up for a match with a predetermined, like all finishes are predetermined, but you know what I mean, with a foregone conclusion, a match with a foregone conclusion next week. That's got me hyper. I'm like, okay, let's go. I'm excited for this. That's tremendous. Like, there's something special about him, and like we always say, it is entirely up to Kyle to make the most out of those opportunities and to use that potential to become great. That's entirely on him, because you can have the potential but never put it to use. And I feel like Kyle is leaning into it, and Ospreay is sitting down there and he's looking at his boy and he's like, God damn, this rules. I'm so proud of you. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of good that came out of this, right? And then Daniel Garcia, again, his name getting some airtime. Like, Max mentions him every week. Now, I know there's a lot of rumors going around, well, there's more than rumors, right? His contract is coming up soon. And there are rumors that he's entertaining offers from WWE, and everyone seems to expect him to end up on NXT if he does go there, right? And that the angle that was shot where he got injured and completely taken out was very smart, because if Garcia did decide to go to the Fed, well, there's an easy out. He was written off AEW TV, and that's the end of it. But of course, if and when he does choose to come back, then he's got his built-in feud with MJF waiting for him. Whether it be for the world title, for the international title or not, he's got a feud coming up with MJF. And if you ask me, with the amount of times that they are mentioning Dan Garcia on television, I think he's coming back. You wouldn't be mentioning him so often on TV, keeping his name alive, if the guy didn't want to come back. Does that make sense? I think it does make sense. Why would you keep mentioning his name on TV if his mind's made up? Maybe his mind is not made up, though, and maybe this is just also a way to show Garcia, that Tony's like, no, we'll keep your name alive. You'll see. We're going to take care of you. We're going to give you. Because I can't blame Daniel Garcia if he's worried about the follow-up to this push. Because it is one. Follow-ups to pushes is Tony Khan's biggest problem. It's his biggest disadvantage. Following up on stuff, it just doesn't connect as well. So I can't blame Garcia if he's like, well, I don't know. Will it really be that good if I come back? Because, there are multiple circumstances where, there's this little story, but what's the follow-up to the push, right? So I wouldn't blame. But, despite these reservations, right, I can't help but think that Daniel Garcia, unless, money is always a motivating factor, but I feel like a guy like Garcia would probably feel like he has a better spot in AEW than wrestling in the warehouse and fighting, Sean Spears and Ethan Page and I Believe in Joe Hendry, I feel like there's one place that would help him evolve, and one that would just have him stagnate. I don't know. Look, to be continued. We then get a video package recapping Swerve Strickland's championship reign so far. Then Chris Jericho is interviewed backstage by Alex Marvez. He's mad at Katsuyori Shibata because of things. His finger apparently is also broken. It was Minoru Suzuki who broke his finger in the match last week, and basically setting up a match between Shibata and Brian Keith next week. And there's a cake, and they threaten to smush Alex Marvez's face in the cake or whatever. Then we had the CMLL World Women's Title Elimination match, or Eliminator match, not the same thing as an elimination match, where Kris Statlander defeated Willow Nightingale. I thought this was a fun little match, but not without its problems. I felt things were a little out of sync. It's weird because I would have assumed that Statlander and Nightingale would have this crazy chemistry together. And while this was fine, like I said, I was expecting another level type of stuff. And it's not exactly making me excited for the future, right? But look, missile dropkick to start by Statlander, fisherwoman's suplex by Willow Nightingale, which is followed by a segment by Statlander who gets spinebuster by Nightingale, and a DVD on the apron, which is always awesome. That is always a tremendous move. 450 splash by Statlander. She's unable to put Willow Nightingale away. So Stokely passes the chain to Statlander, who does the discus lariat with the chain to get the win, while the referee is distracted by old Stoke. There's this weird moment too. There was this weird moment where Willow Nightingale seems to get her hands on Stokely. Well, not only does she gets her hands on Stokely, and she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna beat you up," and the audience is cheering, and you feel it's like, and it just drags, and like she threatens to hit him, and she sort of swats at him and pulls like his jacket over his head. And I thought that was kind of weird. There's either two things that were happening here. Either maybe they were trying to communicate the fact that Willow Nightingale, as a babyface, couldn't bring herself to hit Stokely, right? Which is stupid. She should, because Stokely screwed everything up for her. Like, she has more than enough reason to just, pound him into the dirt. Or the other reason, and I think this is the most plausible one, is that Statlander was supposed to come in and prevent Nightingale from doing something to Stokely, and Willow was sort of killing time for Statlander to hit her spot, and she didn't. And then it sort of had this weird moment of, well, do something. Why are you waffling here? I don't know. Look, I gave this 3 stars, I thought the work was solid, but there definitely was something missing here. And one more thing, I can't help but scratch my chin and say, isn't this interesting that CMLL is basically allowing, via Kris Statlander winning the Eliminator match, allowing Kris Statlander to have 2 women within the same promotion, which is not CMLL, have a championship match for their title. Isn't that interesting? And I honestly do find that interesting. I don't think it's that much of an issue or a problem. Like, to be completely honest, I don't think many people in CMLL or CMLL fans in general, really are focused and zero it in on the Women's World Championship and see it as such a big deal where it's like, where this might create friction, like maybe when Jon Moxley won the IWGP title. I don't think there's that level of attachment. And if CMLL is okay with this, and they're like, yeah, you go ahead and do it. That's fine. And I think it makes a lot of sense for CMLL to go down this route as well, because who are they going to push in their women's division now that Vicaire is gone? Who is that? Like, no one is ready to take that spot in the women's division in CMLL to be the top woman. Outside what, Tessa Blanchard? Okay. But we all know Tessa comes with a certain amount of baggage. That's fine. Baggage that they don't necessarily care about. But maybe she's not who they're looking for. Maybe they'd like to push a homegrown Mexican talent, right? For, Vicaire was Chilean, right? Maybe they don't want to go with Blanchard for the reasons that, for exactly that reason, that she's not Mexican. But, like, no one is ready. Maybe La Catalina, but she's not ready yet. I think Kira is very good, and I think she can be molded into being a superstar, but she's not there yet. But then again, like, neither was Vicaire. Vicaire grew into the role. Like, she polished a lot of stuff off of her presentation. It's just like, and became who she is. With a lot of work, with a lot of tinkering and tweaking. I think that's, like, if they wanted to do that with Kira, who I think would be a suitable candidate, well, it's going to take some time. So maybe CMLL in the meantime, they're like, look, we're not even ready to do something significant with our women. I don't think it's I think it was a very deliberate choice to have Willow become for Willow to win their women's championship after being vacated by Vicaire, or after being vacated because Vicaire left. That would be more exact anyway. I think that's a choice that they made, not just like because to make Tony Khan happy or whatever. Maybe Tony offered it up and they were like, look, while we get our shit together on our side and we figure out who's going to be the next woman up, let's have it hang around in the US for a while. That's fine. It'll add some eyeballs to it, some prestige. People will think a little more highly of it. Maybe. Like, I'm speculating at 100, gas pedal full down on the speculation car here. It's still interesting, nonetheless, that CMLL's title is likely the next defense is going to be between two AEW women, and it's probably not going to be in a CMLL ring. It'll probably be in the UK. You know what I mean? Like, it's very interesting. It's a very interesting outcome, this match is. We get a recap of the Bryan Danielson interview with Jeff Jarrett coming in, giving him the pep talk, the inspirational chat that we saw last week. And again, I'm like, let's just play the whole goddamn thing at this point. What are we doing? But this was for the purpose of this was to set up Danielson to come to the ring for a promo. And he gets a nice reception from the Greenville crowd, saying that this is where he and Brie got engaged. And he talks about presents and promises. No, not presents, not gifts. Presents. Presence. Presence. Like being there. He says how lucky he was able to return to wrestling and be present in the good old days, because he feels like the good old days are right now. He says his 3 years in AEW have been the most fun in his career, and he was able to be present behind the curtain tonight. So all that he gets goosebumps when people chant "Thank you, Bryan." Then we talk about the promises. He talks about the promises he made to his baby girl that he would stop wrestling full time when she turned 7. This is a tale that he has been. This is a yarn that he's been spinning for months now. He promised two things when he joined AEW: kick people's heads in and become AEW World Champion. Wembley might be his last shot to do it. Swerve Strickland arrives, says he respects Danielson, sort of calls him an inspiration. Bryan says that, no, not Bryan, excuse me. Swerve says that Swerve says that Bryan said that he's here to kick heads in, but couldn't handle it when they started kicking back. And then he does some comparisons between himself and Danielson, where he's like, you couldn't beat Will Ospreay. I did. You got pinned against the Elite and Anarchy in the arena. I led Team AEW to victory against the Elite in blood and guts. Last year, I wrestled at Wembley Stadium while you were too broken to even get on the plane. I'm like, all right. Like, this is good. This is juicy stuff. And Swerve here, this is the Swerve I like, who's just, mean-spirited enough to the conniving evil side of him, even though he's a babyface. I like this, the guy who comes up with these, who comes up with scenarios to take people out, the manipulator, casting doubt. Like, I love this Swerve. I was listening to this promo and I was like, this really rules. He calls himself the most dangerous man in AEW, and Danielson won't be walking out of Wembley as champion. He may never even walk again. This was great stuff, which then compels Danielson to go, okay, how about this? Title versus my career. If I lose, I'm done. I don't know. Look, I think this is good. When's the last time we had a proper, career match, either a career versus career or a title versus career? When is the last time we had one of these matches, that significantly could go either way at this point here? Where it's not like, oh, well, this is obviously what's going to happen. He's not going to retire. Danielson has been working so hard to get the idea that this is his last full-time year as a pro wrestler. He's been working so hard at it to get us to believe that this is what it is. That it has led us to this point where he's putting his career on the line, and it's actually a credible stake that we're adding to this match. The end of Bryan Danielson's career as an active pro wrestler. Like, it all connects. It all makes sense. And it adds an extra layer to the main event for Wembley, which I think is tremendous. I like it. Like, honestly, I like it. And you can look at this either way. If Swerve loses the title at Wembley and Danielson gets a run with the World Championship, I'm like, that's tremendous. That's great, actually. That is actually great. And I can see Tony Khan doing this. Absolutely 100%. But I can also see them doing having Swerve defeating Danielson. I can see them doing it. But what kind of damper would that put on the crowd? Let's be honest, right? Would this be a celebration for Swerve? Would this be a match finish, your biggest match of the year, and you have Swerve retaining the title, which a lot of people would love, but you would have this undercurrent feeling of, oh, but shit, Danielson's no longer wrestling, right? And that's something that as wrestling fans you'd have to let stew in your life, and that's a realization that would happen in that moment. You're like, would not be necessarily positive emotions, and would probably take away from the celebration of Swerve getting a big win at Wembley, right? See, it's interesting. It's an extra little layer of cake here on a pretty good cake. It's an extra layer that we're adding on here that makes thinking about it as we go along a lot more compelling. And don't forget, like, this is in a couple of weeks. We're almost there, by the way. We're almost there. Danielson also mentioned that his contract was up today, right? Which I'm not entirely sure is true. And I think, because, Danielson's a worker, right? Danielson is absolutely a worker. He likes to lie, makes things up. So, he has a situation here where he's like, he doesn't want to talk about his contract situation, because if he says, I've re-signed for 3 years, people are going to go, oh, so maybe you are losing and it's not going to matter or whatever. Like, maybe this is information that everyone is keeping super quiet about because they don't want it to spill into the story that they're telling here. Right, because right now the idea is that we're all under the impression that Danielson is doing these last few dates without a contract, that he's honoring these last few dates, right? Where in reality, you would assume, not saying this is the truth, not saying that this is absolutely what they're doing, but you would assume that you would lock down in a contract the guy who's supposed to be, who's supposed to main event your biggest show of the year, right? You'd think so. Backstage, we have Jeff Jarrett, who's happy for Danielson and, says, good job, pal. But Danielson is like, no, screw you. Let's have a match next week. Okay. Alrighty then. I don't know why people want Jeff Jarrett to be involved in Wembley so much. Like, be involved in the final, costing Danielson his career, all of that. Well, like, I don't know why they want this so much. It's very weird. They had a nice little story. This is what happened, okay? This is what happened, is that they had a nice little story with Hangman, with Jeff Jarrett coming in to the Owen Hart and cutting this tremendous promo on Owen, about Owen, I should say. And their time together and so on, and very heartwarming, very moving, a real deal sincere thing. And then they have Paige eliminated from the tournament, and which was the right thing to do. And then people got upset and they tweet about it on social media. And how could you do this? This was the perfect story, was Jeff Jarrett to go on and win the story. And I completely disagreed with that. The perfect story was him getting knocked out by the guy who's coming back and that you want to establish as a top heel. That's the right story to tell. I still sit firmly on that. And since then, they've been shoehorning Jeff Jarrett into a bunch of things where he can act as a babyface, in the blood and guts stuff last week, where you're like, why is he here? What is this? And now into the Danielson stuff, I get it. They explained it by saying, by Jarrett in the video thing saying, I appreciated you, if winning the Owen would have approved, whatever the fuck, and I'm like, okay, now we're just shoving this down our throats too much, because people online are complaining that Jeff Jarrett didn't get his moment and that was not the right thing to do, when it was absolutely the right thing to do. Just people are too much in their feelings. And I don't know who wants Jeff Jarrett in 2024 in top stories and top angles. I sure don't. I think One of the reasons Jarrett has been so successful in this AEW run is because of his nice little mid-card role, lower mid-card role on top of that, where he's just doing his thing and it's entertaining, it's in and out, it's not taking up too much time, just enough to make it fun. Then he hits the brakes and we don't see him until next week. I don't want Jeff Jarrett involved in top level programs, top tier programs. Let's say he does. Let's say he does cost Bryan Danielson his career at Wembley Stadium. What's the program? What do you want to do with Jeff Jarrett? Jeff Jarrett challenging for the World Championship? Is that what you want? Like, what is the consequential, logical follow-up to that? And when you start thinking about it, you're like, no, these are not things I want. These are not things that make sense. Anyway, bit of a sidebar there. We get the six-man tag team match where Roderick Strong, Roosh, and the Beast Mortos defeated the conglomeration trio of Mark Briscoe, Orange Cassidy, and Tomohiro Ishii. I was really excited for this match, and it kind of went below my expectations. I thought this was going to be one of those famous AEW trios matches, but it turned out that it kind of didn't click, and maybe it didn't click as much, not because of the guys who are, because these are all super talented dudes who know how to work trios matches. Like, there was no reason for this match to not deliver. I felt like it under-delivered a bit, but this crowd was dead for this match. And I'm like, what is wrong with these people? This match was tremendous. And even I say that, and I still think, I say tremendous, and I still feel it under-delivered, if that makes sense. Beast Mortos, though, let's underscore this, pins the Ring of Honor World Champion, Mark Briscoe, in this match. And we are getting to see more and more Beast Mortos on AEW television, and I am very for that. I am pro Beast Mortos. Black Taurus was always great. And, at some point, Tony Schiavone was losing his mind. And a guy that size shouldn't be doing this stuff. Exactly. And it's not the usual thing where, it's a big, 6'6" 275 pound dude who's doing a dive to the floor. No. This guy's doing like tornillos and just insane stuff, and so quick, so snappy. That sit out over the shoulder pile driver that he does it looks like murder. It's tremendous every single time. I don't know why people were dead with, but I think it's significant that Mortos got the win. He's going to be back on Collision this week, right? There's another trios match. Let's go. Give me more Beast Mortos on AEW television. I think he can get himself over because he's got that work. Of course, he's got that tremendous look, but he's got the work. So of course he'll be able to do the maximum and get himself over. It's kind of like when I talk about Queen Aminata. Just give her a little pushy push on TV, and she's gonna get herself over like that. She's got too much upside. Anyway, we're not going down that sidebar right now. I went down the Queen Aminata sidebar in my Death Before Dishonor review, which is on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show podcast this week. The Acclaimed cut a promo about FTR. I couldn't care less. Mariah May has an sit-down interview with Tony Storm. Look, we were talking about follow-ups earlier. The follow-up to the Mariah May assassination of Tony Storm, but that angle, the follow-up to it has not been good and has lost all its juice. And even Renee is like, look, you got to tell me about what happened a couple of weeks ago when you destroyed Tony Storm, right? And Mariah doesn't have. I understand the character she's trying to get across. Okay, don't get me wrong here. I know what she's trying to do, but I think she could. This is preventing her from showing fire, which is what she did when she attacked Toni Storm a couple of weeks ago. Since then, it's been very flat, and it's kind of going cold right now. Now, Toni Storm comes out after they showed the sit-down interview, which was a pre-tape thing, and Toni comes out, and she says, and she's unhinged. Like, you know, she's got new makeup, shorter hair. Like, she's transitioning from timeless Toni. Like right now, she's unhinged. She's losing her mind. This is probably a reference that I don't know which one, and I'm okay with that. But this is probably a reference to another movie character somewhere. But like right now, the story they're telling with Toni is that she's unhinged. Look, I'm even going down the path of this is going to be the catalyst to transition back to Toni Storm without the timeless gimmick, right? I think. Because commentary was putting over the fact that she's in a fragile mental state, something that Toni is, her already broken psyche. I believe that's what they were talking about. Those were the words. And she's got they have all of this set up for Toni, this idea that her brain was already broken. Now it's broken even more. So either it keeps going down this rabbit hole or she breaks out of it and she becomes Toni Storm again, right? And I think that's the path we're going to go down. I feel like this is something that RJ City would do. So I would not be surprised in the least if she showed up at Wembley with the black and red with the black and red gear, and she gets a tremendous ovation from her adoptive country. Because remember, she's from New Zealand, right? New Zealand? Why am I drawing a blank? Where is Toni Storm from? It's New Zealand, right? Yeah, Auckland, New Zealand. There you go. But she spent most of her career in the UK. Then, of course, a bit in Japan. We know the story. But yeah, honestly, I feel this feud has gotten cold. It's not even. They had a tremendously hot feud, and the follow up has kind of been. Kamille made her AEW debut. They're calling her the Brick House Kamille, which is actually the name she used to use, right? It was Kamille Brickhouse. That was like her Brickhouse was her last name, was her surname. But now it's the Brick House Kamille. And she defeated Brittany Jade in a squash match, which she looked good. She looked great. This is what you had to do. You bring her out 1 week, the next week she tears ass. There you go. Now that's smart. That's an easy follow-up. That's one that's done easily. That's done well. And then after the match, Mercedes Moné puts her over and then talks about how Britt Baker is obsessed with her, but then who wouldn't be? And basically talks down Britt. And there we go. And that leads us to the main event where Darbin Allin defeated Adam Page. That was a long time without any wrestling. Seems like a long time because I was talking a lot, but it really wasn't all that long. As expected, Adam Page just beats the hell out of Darbin Allin and just brutalizes him. It goes up the ramp. Allin does a coffin drop off the tunnel. The guy's insane. When we go back into the ring, Page continues to dismantle him. And there's this moment where the lights go out in the arena. And I'm like, and the first thing that comes to mind is like House of Black. But then I realized no, wait a second, this is not a blackout, right? Because when they do the blackout to have someone come out, like the House of Black in the darkness, or have someone pop into the ring or whatever the fuck, everything goes black, including the LED boards, and the LED boards were still up. So probably technical issues, right? But it's AEW. AEW has become the home of technical issues, right? I don't understand. I do not understand how they cannot get a proper sound engineer to do a proper mix, a proper audio mix of this show. Every time this show starts, there's something off, commentary is too low, audience is poorly mic'd, there's some kind of audio issues every single time the show starts, and kind of permeates throughout. You'll have someone pick up a mic to do an interview backstage, and then you'll hear the echo from the arena. It's like, God damn. Look, I hope that with the new media deal, Tony invests in getting a proper sound engineer to fix all these problems. Because I swear sometimes I think I'm listening to IWTV. I'm listening to something, I'm listening to I'm listening to a GCW audio mix. I wouldn't go that far. That's pretty bad. I'm sorry. That was a little harsh. Allin gets power bombed on the apron multiple times. Then he eats a sack of shit by Adam Page onto the steps, who then later does an avalanche sack of shit as well. Darby tries to fight back. He's using his belt to whip Adam Page. That lands a code red. Page catches a Darby Allin coffin drop into a sleeper, but Allin reverses it into a pin. Buckshot lariat by Darby Allin, who sees an opportunity to do it. He goes for it anyway, but Page clobbers him before the lariat connects. Then he does a dead eye, does a second dead eye, and he's intent on, brutalizing. So he goes to beat him up some more, but Darby Allin sneaks in a win, rolls him up out of nowhere. Page screws himself out of a victory. Good main event. I enjoyed it. I gave it 3.5 stars. I thought it was very good. Your classic Darby Allin beatdown. Your classic Darby Allin beatdown, which is always entertaining, helps put Adam Page over even more as a bad guy. And he's so mad after he's throwing chairs into the ring. And I thought that we're setting up another spot, but no, that was it. That's done. It'll be interesting to see what they're doing with Adam Page, because he has not been necessarily super successful since returning as a top heel, which is odd. But this was also an odd match to book, whereas Darby Allin, you couldn't have Darby Allin necessarily lose because he's got a title match coming up at Wembley, so you want him to look strong. And I guess having him, get the win off of Hangman Page is significant. That helps build him. Adam Page was still not on the Wembley card, which is odd. Yeah. There you go. It's very no elite. No elite on the show. Everything went smoothly. So that's the show. A show that was filled with storyline development, right? We were advancing stories. We were telling stories. We were getting, Darby Allin over more, as a contender to a legitimate contender for the TNT title. We've got, we had Danielson, of course, setting up putting his career on the line. We had the opening stuff with Kyle Fletcher, continuing that story. A lot of good storytelling here. Solid wrestling throughout. I thought this was a very good show. I enjoyed the July 31st edition of Dynamite. How about that? And the nonsense all at a minimum. So that's even better. One thing that I'm a little disappointed in is that they did not even mention any time on this show that MJF is going to be in Arena Mexico this Friday to fight Templario for the American Championship. And I'm like, that's kind of sad. That's something I feel you'd want to not necessarily promote the hell out of, because you've got your own shows to promote. But isn't this the two-way in the relationship where the idea of MJF going on to CMLL on a Friday night, isn't that the idea to attract more viewers from the US? You could have just mentioned it at some point, right? Excalibur could have squeezed that in. And if he did mention it, I'm sorry, it must have ran past me. Maybe I didn't pick up on it, because sometimes, I'm not entirely, I'm not locked into commentary, but I feel like it was skipped over. If it was, please correct me in the comments, and I will post a retraction next week. But I feel, I like I said, it's not a question. I'm not expecting them to hype the match at every quarter hour or on the hour, but something could have been put over. They could have talked about him going to fight Templario. Anyway, I'm very interested to watch this. But then again, subscribing to CMLL's YouTube, is an experience in and about itself, and it's not cheap either. Look, it's fine. I think that wraps it. Look, we'll just wrap it up on that note. We're done here. We're finished. Good Dynamite. I enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed this review. One more time, a like on YouTube, a 5-star review on Apple Podcast, a 5-star rating on Spotify. All those would be tremendous. I will be back Saturday for the next the next edition of the G1 Climax 34 recaps. We're continuing the daily coverage until it all comes on. We're at the halfway mark, so we're just about done. Otherwise, I'll be back in a couple of days doing that, and then back on Tuesday for the live recording of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show at 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube. So thank you all, everyone, for watching, and I'll see you next time.